Hey guys, it's Dawn, and today I want to talk about my tentative TBR for February, as well as my writing, reading, and social media goals. I hate talking about social media goals, but I really feel like it's one of those necessary evils of hopefully being an author, a published author someday. So I'm going to try to be more serious about it in the future, but I already hate it. I'm going to attempt to include timestamps, even though I can't remember how to do them, because I realize some people are here for TBR, some are here for writing goals, etc. So I just want to make it easier for you to watch what you want to watch. So hopefully those are in the description. Good luck, future Dawn. So let's start with the TBR, which already starts kind of awkwardly because the first two books I've already finished. So just to explain, the first book on this list I started in January and was trying to finish, but I ended up finishing on the 1st of February. So technically I'm including it in February now, but I already finished it. And then the other one was a super short book that I started on the 1st and finished on the 2nd. So I guess that's what happens when you film a TBR in the month that it's supposed to be for. My bad. But anyways, the first book is An Easy Death by Charlaine Harris. This book was a lot of fun. Basically, the concept is that it's an alternate history, so it's 1930s America, but Franklin Roosevelt had been assassinated before he could get sworn into office, and so it kind of set off just a chain of events that led the United States to falling apart and all these different countries kind of coming in and carving off pieces. So on the West Coast, the Holy Russian Empire carved out a chunk because I guess the Russian royals ran away from the revolutionaries and settled in California with some rich people. And then when everything went down, they took over and started the new Holy Russian Empire. Very weird. Canada came down and took a lot of the north. I guess Britain kind of took the East Coast, if I'm remembering correctly. And then I'm trying to remember, I think Mexico took part of the South. And then there's like 2 or 3 little countries within the middle that kind of splintered off and became their own, and they weren't taken over by anyone specific. So that's kind of the lay of the land. So our main character, Lisbeth Rose, is a gunny living in Texoma. So it's one of these little kind of middle countries. So she works as a gunny, which is a hired gun, basically doing security for people trying to cross over to different places, go from country to country, or whatever. So you get some introduction about her and her background and her job. Profession, that's a better word, about her profession in the beginning of the book. And then she meets these 2 Grigoris. And so a Grigori comes from Grigory Rasputin, who was obviously kind of a component of the Holy Russian Empire, I guess. And they're Russian wizards. You heard me right. They are Russian wizards. So these 2 Russian wizards basically approach Lisbeth to hire her for a job. And that's kind of the whole story, is that she goes with these crazy Russian wizards on this ridiculous, dangerous adventure, and shenanigans follow. This book was really fun, guys. Like, it's one of those things that just conceptually, I think it was written for me personally, because it's got guns, it's got shenanigans, it's got Russian wizards, like it's an urban fantasy, like yeah, like this book was written for me. I said like about 1,000,000 times, and I apologize. One teensy tiny like nitpicky complaint I have is that one of the wizards is named Ilya, which, you know, you can say it the Russian way, like Ilya, or you can just say Ilya, like an American. But for some reason that was like too hard for Americans, so he goes by Eli. I don't think Ilya is difficult to say. Like, I know I'm a Russian speaker, but it's just Ilya. Like, that's not difficult. So I don't understand why he needs to have an Americanized or an Anglified version of his name if his name is really easy to say. That was weird to me. So for the whole book, even though this guy's name is Ilya, he goes by Eli. Really strange. I didn't like it, but that is super, super nitpicky, and it doesn't matter. I just had to say it. I also didn't care for how much like casual sexual content there is. Like, yes, there are actual sex scenes, which, you know, that's a whole thing on its own, but there were just a lot of like innuendos and references and stuff just throughout the story that got kind of tiresome for my personal tastes. So if you're someone like me and that's not your favorite thing to read, that might be a turnoff for this book. Although I got over it. It was an annoyance more than anything, but it definitely took away from my enjoyment of the story. So after all that, I gave this ridiculous and super fun story 3.5 out of 5 stars. I recommend it to urban fantasy fans. If you thought the concept just sounded like a hoot and you want to try it out, 100% try it out. I think it's worth your time. But yeah, that is an easy death. It feels so weird to include a book in a TBR that I've literally already finished, but here we are. And just to make things simple, since I'm giving short reviews of these first 2 books in this video, I'm not going to put short reviews in the wrap up at the end of the month. That would just be so redundant. But let's move on to the next book. So this is the other book that I've already finished in February, which is Whiteout by Brett Kane. So this is a clean thriller marketed towards members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There are some that have a wider audience than that, like they can just be generally for Christians or for people that want clean content, but this one is 100% like geared towards members of my church. So if you're not a member, you probably won't like this, and honestly, I didn't care for it anyways. I thought it was too short, so there was almost no character development in this book. Things just happened way too quickly and way too easily for the main character. It was written in first person, and there were aspects of the character's voice that were fun and quirky and charming, but I feel like the author went like a little bit too hard on his personality, so the character really enjoyed like rambling and bringing up stuff that wasn't important at weird times. So for example, there was a point I think where I think he's like reading a news article or something, but it references like I think police dogs finding a body, which is pretty morbid. But for some reason, the character then launches into this whole thing, like inner dialogue, where he's like, I really like dogs. Dogs are great. I've had a dog before. And you're just like, dude, what? Nobody cares. Like, this is not the time. And that happened frequently throughout this book, where you just be reading along and then he just goes on a weird sort of tangent because he's like been reminded of something and it has nothing to do with the story. And there are times where I feel like it does kind of, give you background for his character, but other times where it just feels like, I don't know, like it feels almost self-inserty, I guess, from the author. Like he has all these like little factoids that he's really excited that he knows, and so he just has to insert them, or he has to insert his own personality into the story. And it just makes the writing seem kind of amateurish, in my opinion. I feel like I should try to explain the plot of this story, but even though it's a super short book, the plot was kind of messy, if that makes sense. Like it just sort of had all these little tangents that all sort of came together at the end, but I think it was supposed to be like this aha moment, but it was just sort of like, okay, I guess that all works, but I don't know. It felt like the author was trying a little too hard, but it was his first book as far as I know, so I can forgive that. And I definitely don't think it was horrible. Like, I thought the prose was fine. There were times where I did like the main character's voice, and there were some characters that were likable, but just overall, it was lacking in quite a few things. So that took away from my enjoyment. So I give Whiteout by Brett Kane 2 out of 5 stars. So before I even started to read this one, I had the tentative plan that I was going to read it, and then I have the next book by this author with the same main character. But now, because I didn't enjoy Whiteout, I'm not sure if I want to read Out by Night. So this one's just kind of in the maybe pile of my TBR, but it's basically just the next book with this character. I read the blurb on the back and it doesn't really interest me that much, so more likely than not, I will not be picking this up. I'm not super mad about it because both of these I found at the thrift store, so they were each $1, so I didn't like lose a bunch of money on them or anything, but we'll see if I get to this one. If I get into a thriller mood again and I don't want to try that second one, I'm going to read Cold as Ice by Stephanie Black. I've already read one book from this author, which was Mind Games. I read that last year, and it's from the same publishing company as these Brett Kane ones, but I feel like this is, or it's catered to a wider audience because it isn't blatantly in your face like LDS people, which I just think is good if you're trying to get a wider audience. So I'm eager to try something else from her. She's one of the strongest authors that I've read from one of these smaller publishing houses. So I am excited to give this one a try. It's not featuring the same main character, and I'm interested in the storyline. It features like an estranged brother and all this drama and disappearance and stuff, which for some reason, I don't know why estrangement is like a story trope or a plot line that I like. I don't know why, but that like draws me in. So I'm excited to try this out. Then for an adult fantasy read, I have Jade City by Fonda Lee. This is the first book in the Greenbone trilogy. Greenbone saga. Saga, not trilogy. Sorry. So what I understand about this series is it basically is an urban fantasy that focuses on some crime families. I read the blurb and I think there might be some Romeo and Juliet like romance side plot or something. I could be totally wrong. That's just an impression I got from the blurb. But I guess in this world, Jade has magical properties and these families kind of deal it like a drug. I'm not sure exactly. But I've heard really good things about it and I'm excited to give this series a try. Next, we have Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. This is the sequel to Beartown, which I adored. I read it last year, gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So I'm very excited to read it. It's hard to explain Beartown without giving spoilers because it is a very character-driven story, if that makes sense. But it basically just centers on this little town in Sweden where the local industry is dying and all that people really have to live for and focus on is the local hockey league. They're all very obsessed with it. And then some drama happens that kind of pits everyone in the town against each other. And so that's kind of the first book, and then this is a continuation. So I loved the first book. I'm really excited to continue the story. Then we have Don't Call the Wolf by Alexandra Ross. So this will sound really dorky. I picked this one up because it sounded like it was Eastern European inspired fantasy, and I don't know a lot about it, about the story or anything. I just saw it and the cover spoke to me and I was like, that seems Eastern European. And then I read the blurb, I was like, yes, it is. And so yeah. If I have time, I'm going to get to this one. It's young adult fantasy, so I don't usually pick those up, but I'm more open to them now because I feel like because I read so many more books than I have in the past, I have more room for books that aren't necessarily going to be like top priority, like new, adult fantasy releases. So I am more open to reading YA now, and I'm not such a snob. And lastly, I want to talk about what I'm already reading right now. So I have an audiobook and an ebook going. The audiobook is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is a novella about a murder bot. So Murderbot is a security sort of like hybrid human robot that is working on a planet that some people are exploring. And I love Murderbot's personality so far. They are very relatable, or I think it's called It in the story. It is very relatable. It's interesting that they chose it versus they, but anyways, it's a really interesting story. There's sort of a mystery thriller element to it, but you have all this narration from this really, really awkward murder bot, and it's just quite fun. So I'm enjoying it so far. And I'm almost finished with it. Like, it's only a 3.5 hour long audiobook, and I'm on the last hour already, so I expect to finish it today or tomorrow. Today being Wednesday when I'm filming this video. Anyways, the last book that I'm currently reading is an ebook of Soulkeeper by David Dalglish. It's kind of witchery in that it's a monster hunter book, although the main character, I think his name's Devin, is a lot friendlier than Geralt, and he doesn't have mutations or anything. I'm only a couple chapters in. I don't know a lot about the story so far, other than it seems like the monsters used to not be there, but now they're awakening, and so the human world is going to be flooded with monsters or something along those lines. So interesting so far. We'll see where it goes. That is my TBR, or my tentative TBR for February, because I am a mood reader. So even though, like, as I sit right now, I'm like, yeah, I could get to these, I might have read totally different books by the end of the month, excluding the ones I've already finished and the ones I'm currently reading. So we'll see what my wrap up looks like at the end of February. By the way, even though my official goal is 41 books, my sister decided she's going to try to read 100 books this year, and so she sent me this chart from Hadley Designs and Everyday Reading. I'll try to include it in the description. So this chart has 100 books. You fill them in as you read them. And she tried to challenge me to do it with her. So I am fully aware that 100 books is a lot more books than 41. And I am also fully aware that I probably will not read 100 books this year. But the chart is really cute and I'm having fun filling it out. And I also got 6 books done last month, which is behind for this goal, but it's way ahead for my 41 books goal. So at the very least, I'm gonna, get a good number of books read this year. So can't complain about that. Let's really quickly go over my writing, reading, and social media goals for the month. So for writing goals, the biggest one is to finish my novella. I am supposed to complete the 5th and final part this month. So then the novella will be finished. It will be all sent off to Amara at the Indie Bookworm, and I'll be done with it for now. So that should be pretty fun. I would also like to get 2 chapters proofread in the second draft of The Network, just if I have time, although my main focus, like I said, is the novella. I would like to do at least 2 just kind of outlining brainstorming sessions. I haven't done that in a while, and I think I need to. I have a couple projects kind of bouncing around my head that I think I need to take notes on before I forget the inspiration I've had, so I need to prioritize that. And lastly, I want to get around 20,000 words done this month. I did a little over 16,000 last month, so I think it's doable. And I am trying to stretch myself more because I would like to get to a point where on average I get between like 20 and 25,000, maybe even up to 30,000 on a really good month. But I'm trying to get to that point, so we'll see if I make it there. Reading goals, I would like to read 8 books to try to even make a dent in the 100 book challenge, but February is the shortest month of the year, so that almost already seems like it's not going to happen, especially since I only got 6 done in January, but we will see. I would like to read at least 1 indie book. I would like to read 1 ARC. I already have 1 that I'm signed up for and I need to download, so that should be easy. And then I want to start 1 nonfiction. Haven't decided for sure which one yet, but I need to have a nonfiction going because I didn't read any nonfiction in January. Okay, lastly, my social media goals are pretty straightforward. For YouTube, I would like to upload 1 video a week. I'm not going to be super strict on that because I have been stressed out by YouTube in the past and I don't want it to become not fun because right now it's just a hobby. And then for Instagram, I would like to do 1 post per week. So those are pretty easy goals, generally speaking. So hopefully I can do them because I do need to start focusing on building my author platform for the future when I am closer to publication. So I hate it, but I have to do it. It's a bummer. Well, that's it for February. Hopefully I can do all this nonsense because obviously this is just all my hobby stuff that I actually enjoy, and then I have my actual real life that I have to focus on as well, just like all of you guys. So we'll see. We'll see what I get done this month. But I'm gonna try to be optimistic. I am really happy with how I did in January, so we had a good start to the year and I don't want to lose that momentum, but I also don't want to push myself too hard and get burnt out because that's just not useful. To me, it's not useful to have 1 really, really good month and then be burnt out for 2 months, if that makes sense. I'd rather be consistent than have super high numbers and then crash and burn. So that's my kind of general goal for the year, I guess. All right, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what your guys' goals are for February if you feel like it down in the comments. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and as always, happy writing. Bye!